The Young and the Restless spoilers. Victoria gives in to forbidden attraction. A new romance ignites? The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that Victoria Newman, Amelia Hindley, may soon hook up with a very unexpected partner that could shake up her world. Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, supports his daughter in almost anything she does, but will her latest fling give Victor pause, or a massive coronary? Victoria Newman is lonely. Victoria is lonely, and it doesn't seem like she is that into a reunion with Nate Hastings' Sean Dominic. The show's writers seem to be testing her chemistry with other men, and her daughter's ex-boyfriend seems to be one of them. Will Victoria end up in Kyle Abbott's Michael Mealer bed, very much to Victor's dismay? Victor hated it when his granddaughter Claire Newman, Haley Aaron, was with Kyle. Victor hates the Abbotts, and Victoria has already been with Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson. Victor is certainly not going to be happy with this reunion. However, Victoria and Kyle have chemistry and may soon find themselves in each other's arms. Kyle Abbott needs someone to lean on. Kyle has recently almost lost both of his parents in a matter of days, and Victor is responsible for that. Kyle has not held back when he told Victoria about Patty Williams, Stacey Hayduke, actions, and Victor's part in that. Will Victoria begin to feel sympathy for Kyle and his family, knowing that her father is behind all of this? Victoria may find herself wanting to comfort Kyle, especially now that she is dealing with the anniversary of Cole Howard, J. Eddie Peck, death. Victoria recently just celebrated Cole's life with their daughter Claire. Of course, Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, and Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, celebrated with them as Victor handed a meeting in the main house. Victoria Newman and Kyle Abbott come together. Victoria and Kyle may meet up like they have been doing lately and end up taking things a bit further. Usually Kyle and Victor run into each other close too, if not in the athletic club. It shouldn't be too hard for the two of them to grab and room and take their conversations upstairs. Will Kyle and Victoria end up in bed together? Spoilers reveal that the chemistry between Kyle and Victoria will eventually get the best of them, and they will end up giving into their passion. Kyle and Victoria may end up keeping their connection a secret, but it certainly seems they will end up in bed. It is just a matter of time. If the truth comes out, will Victor be able to handle what he finds out? For years, Victoria Newman had built her reputation on discipline, determination, and control. Every decision she made was carefully calculated, every move weighed against the consequences. In the corporate world, hesitation could cost millions. In her personal life, it could cost her heart. She had learned that lesson more than once. Standing alone in her office long after sunset, Victoria gazed out over the glowing city skyline. The lights below reminded her that life never truly stopped. Somewhere, deals were being made, families were gathering, and people were falling in love. She wondered if that last possibility had quietly slipped away from her forever. Her life had become predictable. Board meetings, endless negotiations, and complicated family dynamics that never seemed to end. She convinced herself that work was enough. Then someone unexpected entered her world. He wasn't impressed by the Newman name. He didn't see Victoria as an executive surrounded by power and influence. Instead, he saw the woman beneath the title, the person who carried invisible burdens and rarely allowed herself to be vulnerable. Their first conversations were brief, professional, and entirely innocent. Yet each encounter left Victoria thinking about him longer than she cared to admit. He challenged her opinions without fear. He made her laugh when she least expected it. Most importantly, he treated her like an equal rather than someone to be admired or feared. That alone made him different. At first, Victoria ignored the growing attraction. She had far too much to lose. Rumors spread quickly in Genoa City, and even the smallest misunderstanding could become tomorrow's headline. Besides, there were complications neither of them could ignore. His position placed them on opposite sides of important business matters. Every meeting required careful professionalism. Every shared glance carried unspoken questions. Friends began noticing subtle changes. Victoria smiled more. She no longer rushed out of every gathering. Even her family sensed something was different, though no one could quite identify the reason. Victor Newman, as always, noticed before anyone else. One evening, he watched his daughter carefully during a family dinner. Victoria seemed distracted, her attention drifting toward thoughts she refused to share. "You've got something on your mind," Victor observed. Victoria smiled politely. "Just business." Victor wasn't convinced. "It usually is," he replied. "But not tonight." The conversation ended there, but Victoria understood the warning hidden beneath his words. Her father had spent decades protecting the Newman legacy. He believed emotions often clouded judgment. Unfortunately, he wasn't entirely wrong. Days later, Victoria found herself working late once again. Rain pounded against the windows while thunder echoed across the city. As she prepared to leave, she discovered she wasn't alone. He was still there. The building had nearly emptied, leaving only the sound of rainfall and the quiet hum of office lights. "You should go home," he said with a warm smile. "So should you. Guess we're both stubborn." Victoria laughed. "I've been called worse." For the first time, neither of them spoke about contracts, quarterly reports, or business strategies. Instead, they talked about childhood memories, dream vacations, music. The hours disappeared. Victoria couldn't remember the last time conversation had felt so effortless. When the storm intensified, they remained inside, watching sheets of rain cover the streets below. "It reminds me," he admitted quietly, "that life doesn't always follow the plans we make." Victoria looked at him. "No," she answered. "It doesn't." Silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, not awkward, just honest. She knew crossing this invisible line would change everything. The attraction she had worked so hard to deny was no longer something she could dismiss. It had become real. "So," he asked softly, "what happens now?" Victoria hesitated. Every logical instinct urged her to walk away. She thought about her family, her career, the inevitable gossip, the endless complications. Yet another voice, one she had ignored for far too long, whispered something entirely different. What if happiness required taking a risk? Without overthinking, she stepped closer. Their eyes met. Neither of them moved. The tension that had quietly grown for weeks finally reached its breaking point. Victoria smiled. A genuine smile. One she hadn't worn in years. "I don't know what's supposed to happen," she confessed. "But I'm tired of pretending I don't feel anything." Those words changed everything. The walls she'd spent years building around herself began to crumble. For once, she wasn't thinking like a CEO. She wasn't calculating outcomes or anticipating consequences. She was simply following her heart. The moment wasn't dramatic. There were no grand declarations, no audience, no celebration. Just two people admitting what had become impossible to deny. Outside, the rain slowly faded. Inside, something entirely new had begun. Of course, new beginnings rarely remain secret for long in Genoa City. Within days, whispers spread through offices and restaurants alike. Some believed Victoria was making the biggest mistake of her career. Others quietly hoped she had finally found someone capable of bringing genuine happiness into her complicated life. Naturally, opinions arrived long before facts. Her family reacted with mixed emotions. Some urged caution. Others offered silent support. Victor remained difficult to read, though everyone knew he would investigate every detail before accepting anyone into his daughter's life. Victoria expected resistance. She expected uncomfortable questions. She expected people to assume the relationship was motivated by ambition rather than affection. What surprised her was how little those opinions mattered. For the first time in years, she wasn't trying to satisfy everyone else. She was making a decision for herself. Would the relationship survive the pressures surrounding the Newman family? Would business rivalries create impossible obstacles? Could trust overcome secrets that inevitably surface in a town where nothing stays hidden forever? No one could answer those questions. Not yet. But sometimes the future isn't about certainty. Sometimes it's about courage. As Victoria looked toward the sunrise breaking across the city skyline the following morning, she realized something remarkable. She wasn't afraid. Not of scandal. Not of failure. Not even of heartbreak. because opening her heart again meant accepting that life remained unpredictable, and perhaps that unpredictability was exactly what made love worthwhile. Whether this unexpected romance would become her greatest triumph or her most painful lesson remained to be seen. One thing, however, was undeniable. A spark had been lit. And once a spark becomes a flame, even the most carefully built walls may never be strong enough to contain it.